Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. First of all, I want to apologize if you can hear any construction noise in the background. I think it's my dad, so sorry for that, but I wanted to film this video, so this is what you get. Also, my hair is wet, I just jumped out of the shower, so this is what you get today. Today's video, as you can tell by the title, is going to be me showing you some of the weird books I have in my book collection, because for some reason I collect a lot of strange books. What I mean by strange isn't only that the stories are strange. Most of these actually don't have strange stories, or I haven't read them so I don't know, but it's a very particular kind of book, and it's very weird that I have it on my bookshelf. I don't know why, but I feel like I do like collecting unexpected books or just weird things. To start off, I have two books here that are kind of related because I got them from the same place, but also kind of related because they both deal with women from a long time ago. So these are the two first books I will be talking to you about. They are Eminent Victorian Women by Elizabeth Longford and The Nature Notes of an Edwardian Lady by Edith Holden. So, Eminent Victorian Women, as the title suggests, is a collection of biographies about eminent Victorian women. And I'm not particularly a real history buff, if you could call it that. I mean, I am interested in these things. It's biographies about people that I'm curious to know more about, like George Eliot and the Bronte sisters and all those like really interesting people. And not only writers, there are doctors too. Yes, there were doctors who were women in the Victorian times, apparently, and just prominent people. But the title Eminent Victorian Women comes from, or is a play on Lytton Strachey's Strachey, I don't know how to pronounce his surname, book of the same sort of idea called Eminent Victorians, but that is about eminent Victorians in general, men and women. I don't actually know if there are any women in that book, but I'm assuming there probably were. But anyway, so Eminent Victorian Women, first of all. Nature Notes of an Edwardian Lady. This is literally just a collection of poems and drawings of an Edwardian lady and some diary entries and all these things. And I just thought it would be really interesting to know. I have no idea which Edwardian lady this is even about, but I took it. For someone who says they're not really interested in history, I have a lot of historically minded books in the stack. But I think it's because I'm interested in particular people's histories and not necessarily history as a whole. I have a copy of Let's Bring Back. It says, an encyclopedia of forgotten yet delightful, chic, useful, curious, and otherwise commendable things from times gone by. So this is basically a collection that Leslie M.M. Bloom made of things that people used to do or say or abide by, have as a way of life or part of their way of life in times gone by, that she thinks that we should bring back. Things like wearing a cape to the opera, wearing white gloves to lunch, bed curtains, cuckoo clocks, parlor games, calling cards, double features, duels, monocles, riddles, turbans, and parasols. She thinks we should bring them back, among many other things in this book. But it's a very strange book to have. This was a bit of an impulse buy, but I'm not upset about it. I'm very happy to have this. Then next up, I have a copy of The Deeper Meaning of Life by the same people who wrote The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. And I found this at a flea market sale, and my friend said, you have to take this. You have to pick this up. These are the people who wrote The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and you have to take this book. And so I took this book, and it's a really, really weird book. It's about, or actually I don't really know what it's about, but It's got a whole bunch of words and what looks like definitions. It does say on the bottom here, a dictionary of things that there aren't any words for yet. So basically, they made up words for stuff. It's a really weird book, and every time I do an unhaul and look through my bookshelf, I'm like, should I give this one away? But then I look through it and I see that it has all these interesting word things in it. And I'm like, maybe I should keep it. But when am I ever going to read this book? I don't know. I really don't know. Next up, I have a copy of Letters of Note, all about cats. Now, this is just weird because somebody took the time to compile a whole book with letters that mention cats or are about cats. And also, people wrote letters about their cats or mentioning their cats, which were then able to be combined all into this one book. Humans are strange. This is more just like a humans are strange book. But I bought it, so I'm one of those strange humans. I'm very much a cat person. My cat is lying there, off screen, and I want to read people's letters about cats. Apparently. The next book is again a history book, which I don't know why I have it. Actually, I do know why I have it, and I will explain to you. So this is Histories of the Unexpected about the Tudors. Now, the reason I have this, or part of the reason why I have this, I don't think this is particularly her field of study, but I follow a dress historian called Bernadette Banner on YouTube. You might know her. She's pretty well known. And through her, I kind of got into more history sort of topics and learning about the way people dressed and lived their lives in times gone by. And then I saw this book at the bookshop, and I think it was on sale. And I was like, I'll take that. But why I said it's not particularly her area of study, I think she is more in the late Victorian, early Edwardian area, all the way up to present times, basically. So I don't really know why I have this book, but I have it now on my bookshelf, and it's seems to be slightly intriguing, fairly intriguing, otherwise I wouldn't have picked it up. But yes, I have this book. I have this book now. Then, the next book is a book that somebody gave to me for my birthday. Because I'm half German, she went to a charity bookshop and she saw this book and she bought it for me because she thought it was German, but it's actually in Dutch. And she realized that after she gave it to me. She's like, I realize now that this is actually a Dutch book, but I thought it was German when I picked it up and took it for you. So here's your Dutch book that I was pretending was German. Anyway, I think it's a translated version. I don't know if Nikki French originally writes in Dutch, or if she originally writes in English. Let me see. Okay, yeah, it is translated. Now I have a Dutch Nikki French thriller book that I'm gonna read sometime this year, because it is part of my goal to read books in other languages, and now I have this book, so I can read a Dutch book. Staying on the topic of friends buying me books, I love it when friends buy me books, but sometimes they do buy me the weirdest things, as you have just seen, and will see just now. So my friend went on a trip to Spain, and on that trip she also went to Amsterdam and to Belgium, somewhere in Belgium, I can't remember. And somewhere along the way, she found this book, which is a book on how to learn Spanish, but it's in German. So it's a German-Spanish language learning book. And the thing is, I appreciate the sentiment, because sure, I would love to learn Spanish at some point in my life, but my German is not good enough to practically be able to use this as my method of learning Spanish. So, you know, I have this book, and it's kind of, I want to keep it just because it's kind of a hilarious story and funny that I have a book to learn a language in which I'm not entirely proficient enough to use this language to learn another language. So here's my other strange book. This is the only book on this list that really is on here because of the story. Because this is, I think, the only fiction book on here. No, I lied to you. Nikki French is also a fiction book. But this is the only book on my bookshelf where I read it and I was like, what? So much so that I wasn't even able to give it a star rating or review it after I'd read it, because I was so mind blown, but like in a confused way, about what happened. I don't want to say what was the point, because there is a point to the story, but like it's such a weird way of going about telling the story. And I suppose that's the author's goal, maybe, or just her writing style. But I'm so confused by this book that I feel I need to reread it to actually read the story again and understand and see if my thoughts have changed. So, without further ado, I present to you Women by Chloe Caldwell. I read this last year, I think in June, for Pride Month, because it is a queer story about two women who fall in love and have an affair because one of the women is actually married already to a woman. So it's not like it's a novel storyline. There have been many stories written about people having extramarital affairs, having queer extramarital affairs, queer people having extramarital affairs. This is not like a new concept to wrap my head around. But the way that the story played out, and the characters, and just the whole way that the story happened, confused me so much, and I thought it was such a weird book. But I haven't been able to stop thinking about it, really. So it kind of did its job, because when you write a book, you do want people to think about it afterwards. You don't want them to just read it and then kind of forget that they ever read it. So this book definitely did its job very well, but so weird. Such a strange book. Anyway, the next book I have is Buddhism for Bears. Now, I don't know who thinks they're going to teach Buddhism to bears. I haven't ever tried to interact with a bear. I've never seen a bear in real life. But if I did ever meet a bear, I don't think that my first thought would be to teach them the principles of Buddhism. I don't actually know the principles of Buddhism, but I'm going to read about the principles of Buddhism, I'm assuming, in this book, Buddhism for Bears. Why do I have some of these books on my bookshelf? I really don't know. I ask myself these questions. The answer is usually I don't know. Then another book pertaining to bears, but this is Celebrities and Other Bears by Phyllis DeMong. This is a book basically where Phyllis DeMong, and I don't know if she did the illustrations as well. Let us see. It looks like it. It doesn't say illustrated by somebody else, so I'm assuming. This is a book of illustrations of bears as celebrities whose names could be changed to incorporate bear, and also activities and phrases, and everything just has the word bear in it. And it's pretty it's quite funny. Like, this is a book that you read if you're having a bad day and you just want to pick me up and you want a little giggle. But it is a very strange book to have on a bookshelf. But I must say, it's not technically my book. Technically, it's my dad's book. But I keep it on my bookshelf because I pretend that I'm going to read it many times. I've only read it once. But maybe if I kept it out of my bookshelf, meaning lying somewhere on a desk or on a side table, I would actually pick it up and read it. Or somebody else who would come to visit me would pick it up and read it and have a laugh. And then, finally, the last book I have in my weird book collection is also a book that the same friend who bought me the Nikki French book bought for me as well. Because there was a time when I was really interested in learning embroidery, So she bought me a book called Embroidery Stitches Step by Step, which, you know, is very lovely and is a very helpful thing to have. But I've only used it like twice, unsuccessfully, and now it just lies in my art corner with all of my sewing projects that I want to get to, but I don't know when I will get to them ever. And yeah, I don't really do embroidery anymore, and I don't know that I ever will do a lot of embroidery to warrant me having this book, but I have it nonetheless. So, not so much a weird one, just I used to have a function for this book and now I kind of don't kind of book. I'll see if I can pick all of these weird books up, but I don't think it's going to be a successful attempt because I have all very strange sizes on top of each other. Oh, it actually worked. Anyway, so my stack. It's quite a heavy stack of very weird books in my bookshelf. Thank you for coming on this trip down Weird Book Lane with me. If you have any weird books in your bookshelf that you would like to confess, that you would like to tell me about, you can do so in the comments below, because I would like to know that I'm not the only person who has weird books or books for strange, unknown reasons on my bookshelf. Thank you so much for being here. I will see you again next week with another video. I hope you enjoy your day. Goodbye.